And as I said, thank you all for coming today. My name is Rachel Cooper. I work for the Texas Society of Architects, helping out with communications as well as overseeing our architect licensing advisors, who will introduce themselves here in a second. And we're happy to provide this webinar to you to help you get more information on the path to licensure, no matter where you are on that path right now. And we will have time for questions at the end. But if you do have a question that is top of mind as we're going through this presentation, feel free to put it in the chat and we will be sure to answer it later. So I'm going to hand it off now to Irma and Mike.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Irma Cifontes and I'm a registered architect in Texas. I am an architect licensing advisor for Texas. And I'll introduce now Michael.
Hey everybody, I'm Mike Clough. I'm also in Texas and I'm an architect licensing advisor here as well. And I'm really looking forward to going through this with you. So we'll get started and I'll give you a brief overview. Here's our emails if you need to reach us, but we'll dive right into the items here. As most of you are aware, the National Council of Architecture Registration Boards its main role is to facilitate licensure, and it has three key components in education, experience, and examination. The NCARB members include 50 states and 55 other jurisdictions that you are eligible to license in. That's the District of Columbia, that's Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, and Northern Mariana Islands. Your education component in most cases is what starts this. And so it usually begins, but it is not limited to beginning in an NAAB, a National Architectural Accrediting Board program. Usually your universities will tell you whether or not that is there, but it is, again, not the only way in which you do this. It also involves experience. Most of you are well aware of the Architectural Experience Program, the AXP, and the requirements there to achieve licensure. And then finally, it's an examination process. And so we'll go through each of these steps and we'll continue to move along through those. I'm catching up, pardon me.
Right.
And with that, I'm actually going to pass it to Irma.
Okay, well, let's start talking about the Architectural Experience Program. The AXP is the one that provides you with the framework and guide you through gaining and recording your professional experience. And so we want you to get the real world experience. And so with that, with that practice, this prepares you for the ARE exam. And so all the information for the Architectural Experience Program is in the NCARB's website. You can download the guidelines. This guide includes a step to complete the program, reporting procedures, training requirements, and an overview of the tasks you should understand and be able to perform before becoming licensed. To complete the AXP, you will need to demonstrate that you're able to perform the task identified across the 6 experience areas. For example, let's say some areas associated with programming and analysis include determine the impact of zoning and development and ordinances. So you can use this guide as a tool to help to focus in the different areas you're studying. So the experience setting is divided in 2 different areas. So one is experience setting A, and that's related to the practice of architecture, where you're required to have a minimum of 1,860 hours. So in order to qualify for this, you must be under direct supervision by an XP supervisor licensed in US or Canada. You have to work in an organization engaged in full in practice of architectures. And you must be paid. Cannot be a free cannot be a free experience.
Internship.
Yeah. So and then you have the experience setting O. So it's related to other work experience that will allow you also to gain another extra 1,860 hours. So you can be working with a foreign architect, landscape architect, engineer. Um, you can work in a design or construction related employment, and you can get up until 320 hours. You can do community based design and collaborative, that will be like 320 more hours. If you get a CSI certification, you will get 40. If you go into design competitions, you will get around 320 hours. Um, with a NCAR professional monograph, you can do 10 hours. If you go to site visit with a mentor, you can do up until 40 hours. Construction work, 320. And AIA continuing education, up until 20 hours. So that's the other portion that can help you to gain hours for your XP. So these experience areas are hand in hand with the exam. So these ones are the same areas you're going to be tested. So practice management, project management, programming and analysis, project planning and design, project development and documentation, and construction and evaluations are different tasks that have a different weight amount in hours, but you need to go through with your supervisor to these different areas in order to gain your total of 3,740 hours in order to fulfill that portion of the AXP hours. So this depends of the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction varies with the requirements. So you have to keep that in mind. Each time you want to check something, go to the NCAR website and check the map that is showing in the screen. So the jurisdictions that are in blue require the full completion of the AXP, and then the ones that has the crosshatch have a duration requirement, and the length varies per jurisdiction. So, for example, Arizona, Philadelphia, New York, those have different requirements that you may need to check in the website. So then with the report requirements, you must submit your experience within 8 months in order to receive the full XP. If you, we recommend you to do this constantly, like every month, or if you can, every week, like when you're doing your timesheet. Because if you leave all this amount of hours during 8 months, then become tedious to do it, and then you lose the 50% of the value. So you can record them, but you might need to do the double work in order to register those hours. So we really recommend that you keep your pace in order to get them registered and do not lose time. So it's recommended that the mentor be distinct and control the work into separate firms. Having mentor is highly recommended, but not required. You can have more than one mentor. You can have persons that guide you to all the process. So you have different resources that they can guide you through. And so those are the HSWC courses, email newsletters, supervisor's guide. So they receive all this information to guide you through the AXP process. Um, and so you can be documenting your AXP through your computer, or there are different options that NCAR offers. Like they have their own app, so you can do it from your phone. So it's pretty convenient it, to keep the pace of the registration of the hours. And so there is another option that is different for the hours, which is called the AXP portfolio. So who is this for? It's for designers who put the licensure on hold. They started the process, and then for different personal things during in the career or economic reasons, they had to stop. So when they have accumulated certain years of experience, so they will document a PDF and submit it to NCAR. So who can do this? If you have at least 2 years of experience from over 5 years ago, if you have a current supervisor who's licensed architect and willing to attest your knowledge and experience, and also if you were unable to finish documenting the AXP through the experience report for the things that I mentioned before. So then, well, start your record. And that's the first point of the beginning. And now I'm going to handle this to Michael to continue explaining the next portion, which is the architect registration examination.
Mike, you're on mute.
Much like the training portion that Irma mentioned, the test is broken up into 6 parts. And so you'll see those here on the screen here. You'll see practice management, project management, program and analysis, project planning and design, project development and documentation, and construction evaluation. You can see that each test is approximately 3 hours at a minimum and goes up to 5 hours. And you can see the number of items here. Keep in mind that each jurisdiction sets its own rules regarding when you are eligible to take the ARE. So it's important to understand those rules. As Irma mentioned earlier, you can find them on the NCARB's website. And once you begin, there's really no specific way or path to take these through. It's really dependent on each individual test taker, how they work, how they operate, but also their levels of experience. So what you can expect in coming to each of the tests is that they're organized in the same way. It's really just the only differences are the number of items and the test duration. Each exam appointment begins with a few introductory screens, will include a few reminders, and candidates will have the opportunity to view professional feedback on their performance at the conclusion of the exam. The content portion of each division includes discrete items and case studies. Those discrete items are located at the beginning of a content portion of each exam, and case studies are located at the end. You don't need to answer them in a specific order. You can navigate forward and backwards, and you can choose whatever you feel is most comfortable to handle first. So then there are some policies relative to eligibility. Again, each jurisdiction sets those. In most cases, it's really meeting the jurisdictions, pardon me, education requirements. Taking the ARE are delivered with PSI, the online or the application. Online and in-person testing environments exist, as well as testing centers in both US and international locations. Probably most important to most of you is the cost is $250 per division. And relative to retesting, should you need, a candidate needs to wait 60 days after a failed division to retest on the same division, but you can test up to 3 times per division per running year. There are additional there are some additional supports. There is additional testing for English as a second language, as well as word-to-word translation dictionary. It's not necessarily available online, and you need to apply for either of the both through the NCARB's website. to choose the ESL accommodation. Relative to the rolling clocks, those were eliminated on April 30th of 2023. A new score validity policy ensures appropriate exam scores moving forward. A passing exam is valid for the entire duration of that exam version and the immediately following ARE version. So if you tested in ARE 4 and you are we're currently in 5, your tests are still valid. Well, actually, I got that backwards. They are invalidated due to the rolling clock candidates. Their invalid scores from ARE 3.1 or earlier remain invalid, and Division 5.0 divisions pass will remain valid until the end of version of ARE. All right. So there's finally some changes back in February 27th of last year. The retiring of the QFIB questions. Exam will no longer have questions where you need to fill in the blank. Exam will still have questions that require numerical responses, but will be formatted in a manner of the exam's other 4 question types. And then updated the reference billing codes were reliant on the 2021 version of the ICC family of codes in lieu of the 2018, and excerpts will be from the for the case studies. There is an optional break time between and in the duration shown here. You can take a break at any point. Upon returning from the break, candidates will be unable to review items from the prior screen. That's something important to note there. So here you'll see the packet, you'll see some guidelines that you can use. There's always questions that we get here about which ones to take in what order, what are some resources, whether they're online, whether they're practice tests or tutors. So we really encourage everyone to consult the architect registration exam guidelines that's available on the NCARB website. You'll find practice exams there, as I mentioned. You'll see them for each of those categories. They'll include questions, and one practice exam for each section. Here's one of the graphic demonstration exams that you'll find there, a little example on that. So the practice tests give you the opportunity to become familiar with that format. It's probably not the same software. It's definitely not the same software you're using on a daily basis, so it's always good to practice. Some other resources on the next slide will be some video preps series and the use of your smartphone. In person, we mentioned this already, the family of contracts, or actually I'll start in the middle there. 2021 is the IBC version that it's relying on, but it's still using the 2017 version of AIA contracts that it references, and it does use ARE 5.0 guidelines. Again, you should download that from the NCARB website. In-person tests are done at Prometric testing centers in the US and internationally. Online testing is done through PSI, online proctoring software, and the exam is the same regardless of how you have it delivered. I mentioned that the fee is $250. It's important to note that you can reschedule for free first time, but it is costly thereafter, beginning at $50 and going $100 for every other instance. You can do that up to 48 hours before an in-person appointment, and there's the repeat of that, and you can do it up to 24 hours before an online appointment. Cancellation will cost you $100, and you can do that up to up to 1 hour before your scheduled appointment time. You will receive a replacement exam seat. More references to the resources that we've mentioned here. Snazzy little snapshot of those. We did talk about these as well. Again, a reminder of those. Score reports.
It doesn't
Blank.
Oh, there it is.
So here you're seeing an example score report, which unfortunately indicates that this applicant failed. And Irma, is there anything you want to point out on that?
For the
Score report?
Yeah, no, the score report is you're only gonna get it if you fail the test, and it's gonna tell you kind of where you are achieved your goal. If you if if you see in the right column, it says like you should achieve at least at 60% of the correct items, but if you just achieve 40%, so that's why you failed. So you may need to work out a little bit more on that area. But if you pass, you're not going to receive anything. It means you don't have anything to review. You did good in your exam. So now let's talk about the NCARB certificate. Once licensed in one jurisdiction, it does not mean you're licensed in the entire U.S. territory. You're just licensed, for example, in Texas, or you're just licensed, for example, in Florida. So if you want to continue in other jurisdictions, you can take advantage of your NCARB certificate and ask for reciprocity, and so start to get registered in other exams. So the NCAR certification, as we mentioned before, requires three components that are education, experience, and examination. And so that will take you to the licensures, and that will give you the NCAR certificate, right? That's the basic path to licensure. But then there are other paths, and there is an education additional pathway. So in here, with the education alternative to NCARB, architects must be at least study 3 years in architecture, and then you can have about the double of working experience, and then the examination. So it won't be 3,740. You might need to do the double, and this is not accepted from all the jurisdictions. So you may need to be careful if you're doing this. Not all jurisdictions are gonna accept this one. So the other pathway that you have, it's what we're talking about, like if you're doing the portfolio and you do the experience and the examination, so you also can get the licensure and then the NCARB certificate. And then you have the other path, if you have foreign education. So with your documentation of foreign education, you submit this one to NCARB, and NCARB is going to evaluate your studies, and they're going to determine if you have to take additional credit courses during a certain period of time. And then after you take them, they approve, and you will go and do the experience and the examination, and then the licensure. And if you don't want to go to this process, there is an extra foreign education that you do master accredited in US, and doing that master accredited by NCAR. So you can then do the experience and the examination and the licensure. So for the foreign architecture credential, to be eligible for this alternative path, must meet the following: education, have a degree from accredited, validate, officially recognized architecture program that leads to registration in the foreign country, have your registration in your foreign country, hold that credential, and that has a formal record keeping and mechanism of the disciplinary action. So you must be without any record that goes against your that you need to be with your license very clean, and that you have been working uh, in architecture in a good practice in the foreign country. So, but either or, you must complete the AXP hours and the ARE to become certified. So those are the, the steps you may need to take. Then there is another program that will allow you to continue with the architecture path of licensure, and this is the IPAL. So currently 33 NAAB accredited programs at 28 schools across the country offer this program. So students with an education that connects to real world practice while shortening their time to licensure and expanding their career opportunities. So by integrating education, experience, and examination requirements, this program helps students to prepare for life after college by connecting education to correct architectural practice, jump-starting their careers with work experience and networking, making students eligible for licensure after graduation by completing licensure requirements, opening up a career opportunity through faster path of licensure, and helping students to manage the financial burden of earning a degree, both by interweaving paid employment opportunities around academic requirements and by qualifying them by higher paying positions. So this is something that is new to NCARB and is going on, and it 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 takes is a lot of advantage doing this integrated path to architecture licensure. So then for them, okay.
So we got a few questions, and we kind of organized them into groups. As you can imagine, we get some of the same questions each time, and so we wanted to break them in, and we have them in 4 categories. And the first is really where to start with the benefits of being of licensure. I think this one is pretty straightforward here. It's obviously the legal benefit of being able to call yourself an architect begins and ends with licensure. As Aaron mentioned earlier, it's important to note that where you have licensure is dependent on that jurisdiction and is only applicable to that jurisdiction. What I mean by that is you follow the rules to get it there into practice. But one of the first is the ability to call yourself an architect legally, but also amongst your friends. Who amongst us doesn't appreciate the party trick of saying not only did you study architecture, but you've passed the exams and you're a licensed architect? It also makes you eligible to, or not eligible is the wrong word. It benefits in your ability should you need to move or should you need to change practices. Having an architecture license demonstrates a certain competency that's easily understood, because those seeking that sort of employee understand that you've gone through a process and you've done the education, you've done the experience, and you've done the examination. So Irma, I don't know if you have anything to add there on the benefits.
Yeah, no, the benefits also when doing your path of licensure, getting prepared in your AXP hours, in your exams, you gain a lot of knowledge and experience that will help you uh, as a professional and your credibility. So yeah, it's that's part of what I think it's also beneficial.
Okay. And so similar questions we got about atypical tracks, and I've seen one also from Hunter in the chat here, but it's how do unorthodox professionals like me get back on track with the licensing process? Please go over the requirements for candidates that passed tests 5 to 10 years ago and those without a master's degree. So in essence, those are somewhat two different things, one of which is how are old tests scored and really memorialized and used going forward. And it really depends. It's unfortunate I can't give you an exact answer on this because I don't know the exact circumstance, but it really depends on which tests you took before and whether or not they're still valid. So I would begin with understanding what those versions are and really seeking out NCARB to do that, or you can send an email to us with the specific tests you passed then, and we can help you determine the eligibility. Uh, as far as experience that may not be current, I think Hunter, this was a part of your question. You didn't keep track of it for 8 years ago. There is a process. It involves, I think what we mentioned was 5 years ago, more than 2 years of experience, undocumented experience 5 years ago is essentially requires a letter from whomever you're working with, the licensed architect, from them stating that they attest to your experience and the level of work to then begin doing that. But what I would encourage you all to do is, obviously, Irma mentioned this, is to start your NCARB certificate. Make sure it is in good, or pardon me, your NCARB record. Make sure it is in good standing and begin documenting now what you're doing. And so filling in the gaps from previous is one thing, but carrying it from this moment on is important to do going forward. Anything to add there, Irma?
Yeah, I guess it's pretty straightforward as you explain. Yeah, it depends of the circumstances. There are typical different rules. So the easiest thing is, contact NCARB directly and check if you had your record open in the past, and see if your hours are there, and so where are you standing at. So check first where are you standing, and then what are, maybe you're just missing 2 steps there, or you need to do more hours, or you just need to bring your portfolio. um, so yeah, first check where you are, and then continue with the process. But now it's pretty flexible NCAR with this thing. In the past, after 5 years, you need to start again and everything. But right now, you have different options. So I will recommend that to contact NCAR for this one. So I think we can continue with other questions. I see that there were some few questions about international architects. One was like, I'm licensed in Mexico. I would like to see what possibilities are for me. As we mentioned before in the presentation, for foreign architects, you can do, or the path where you submit your transcripts to NCARB. NCARB evaluate, they will recommend you to take certain courses and an accredited university to complete your educational record. Then after that, you may need to complete work hours that are in US under a licensed architect, because the foreign architects just count for a certain amount of hours, but you need to have also experience in US. And then go to the exam process, and that will finalize. If not, the other option will be doing an accredited program like a master in architecture, and then the working hours and the exams, and that will be the other option that you can take. So those will be some options for the foreign architects. And we can continue with the other page that we have more questions that we received before the presentation. And there is any guidelines of how to start studying. So the first thing that I will say is go to the NCAR website and find the resources they offer there. There are many. Each exam has different material study, others overlay. And so check on each division what you need to study. So then select what exam you want to start to take first. And then there are many programs and material resources, but I will highly recommend to start with NCAR material. NCAR have exams, practice exam per divisions, and that's the most close thing you're going to find as an exam. And so I would highly recommend to start with the NCAR website and then go from there. Then where can you access resources to study for the exams? Again, in the NCAR website. And then if you read in there, there are many books that they recommend to study. There are also online programs that you can take, study groups. If you are in an office where people is taking exams, join them. And also there in the NCAR website, there are also groups that are posting, do you want to study? You can join them, and those are pretty good. Then I want to know the best free study tools and estimated time frame. Well, free study, the NCAR ones, the exams, that are in the website, but then there are many others that you need to pay. So it and will depend of how you study, and the time frame is personal because each one of us has maybe work or family or things to take care, and so maybe those make you go slower. And so the time frame is the way you schedule your exams, study, and get ready to take them. This is difficult, I know, because it's not like when you're in college, for example, that you have somebody that is saying you have an exam tomorrow, or you have a deadline tomorrow, or you have a and you get ready. And this one is yourself who put your pace. And so then expectations for study load and pacing for the is this what I've been explaining, the study load, and pacing, the pacing will be yourself. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to add something there.
No, I think you've touched on it. In most of these questions, the response is really it's an individual's take on that, and how you study best, how you prepare best, how you take the exams best is really independent. What I would encourage you to do is maybe talk with some of your peers who have a similar style as you. If for no other reason, ask them what resources they're using, but also see if there are test or prep courses they've taken or instructors they've used. But it's really hard for us to give you one path or one kind of approach that works for all.
Yeah, I there is a question that says like, what is the most efficient and timely path to gain license? So time, the most efficient and timely, it's still being, you need to pace yourself, but I will say the first thing you need to do once you are approved to start to take exams, just schedule the first one, and then it doesn't matter if you pass or fail, take the next one. I will say take a pace of every 2 months to have one schedule, and the don't worry if you're failing. That's a practice exam that you're taking, and you're going to be studying until you get ready to pass. So it's a matter of a schedule, take the test, a schedule, take the test. And if you're studying with the appropriate sources, you're going to be able to pass. And if not, don't worry, continue researching and working on it, that there is a moment that uh, you are gonna be able to finish all of them. But you are the owner of your pace and time in this one. So then there's another question that says, I'm able to receive test taking accommodations? Yes. You go to to take the exam in person. You will, if you need the special accommodations, you may need to notify that in the website of NCAR when you're registering, and you will have those. And if you are doing, have a English as a second language, currently NCAR allows you to go with a dictionary, but only in person. You cannot do this online. Online is a different process. So you can bring the dictionary but the dictionary cannot have anything. Writing must be cleaned, is going to be revised for the security person in the place, and so that will help you with your second language. So how you should ponder the intent behind the question, specifically choose the best answer, types of questions. um, I think, yeah, you need to also prepare to be an exam taker, and the NCARB exam style. So, but that's why they have different samples in the website for you to time yourself and check the clock of your exam, to be able to finalize also in a timely manner within the period, like 2 or 3 hours you have during the test. So then if you fail an exam, which exam do you register for next? So what you can do during a year is about the same test 3 times within a 2 months period. So I will recommend, like, if you study for the test and you fail, I will schedule the same one. I won't schedule another one. So because you have that knowledge fresh, you study and check what were your deficiencies, study again and retake it. You have until 3 opportunities per year per exam to take it. So I think that gives you 6 months in total to get prepared for one division. And if you don't make it, so go to the next exam, and then you go back again the next year. So that's what I would recommend if you fail an exam. So these ones are the questions we receive previous the
So I've been looking in the chat trying to get ready to answer some of these, and I think we've addressed most. There was one about Australia, and I'm dropping a link in there just now that does my international work experience count towards fulfillment of the AXP? So the short answer is maybe. It really depends on the work and how it was done. And based on that, it'll tell you which setting you go experience A or otherwise. Working back up from that, it says I have more than 30 years experience working with a firm under a licensed architect, but I have an associate's degree. What I can say about this is that NCARB has been studying, but I don't know, Irma or Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, has been studying alternative backgrounds, I'll call them, and non-architecture related. Right now, I think the threshold is 64 hours of architecture related coursework. And so I'm not sure your particular degree if it covered that, but more to come on that is what I would say. And if you have a specific question there, I think it's best to reach out directly to NCARB. Let's see here, and working up from that. India is similar. You're asking whether to go EESA or the educational transcript. I don't know, without having more information which way to recommend that you go. It seems to me that it really depends on how easy it is to get your transcript from your institution, how long that would take. But that would be another instance where I would encourage you to make sure, I assume you have an NCARB degree or NCARB account and record, and I would start by reaching out to them directly and asking specific to your institution and where you got that. Otherwise, I think we've addressed all the other questions. I'm looking to see if any, nope. Oh, here come. Hunter is asking a question about where you went to the university. I'll let someone else answer that. Any other questions we can address today?
If there's no other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But while we are going through this presentation, it just reminded me of an underutilized resource that we advertise from time to time. But it's a ARE reimbursement grant from TBAE. So if you are taking the exams and your employer is not someone who is reimbursing you, TBAE actually does have grant scholarship thing you can apply for, and it tells you the eligibility here on this website I just put in this chat. But I just wanted to share that for especially those of you who are taking the exams and not getting any support from your current employers. That would be a great thing to check out.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a nice detail and support from them.
Yeah. It looks like the chat is a little quiet for now, so there might not be any other questions. But as Irma and Mike mentioned, NCARB is a great place to also ask any specific questions to directly. Here's all of their websites and socials and places you can reach out. And including the customer service email, TBAE for Texas licensing specific questions. And again, if you would like to reach out to Irma or Mike specifically with a question, you can email info@texasarchitects.org and we will get your question and assistance to the right person. Um, but other than that, we appreciate y'all for joining us today. Wish you the best on your path to licensure. We are here as a resource to support you. And as I mentioned earlier, this presentation will be up on our YouTube channel, in a few days to a week, so you can reference this information. But otherwise, thank y'all for coming and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all for joining. Hope we clarify a lot of questions.
Thanks, y'all.